What's up, guys? Welcome to the Tech Tony podcast. Now, today I do have a good friend and another fellow TikToker. This is Will. His hashtag, let me get right, it's Heyitswil on TikTok, correct?
Heyitswill.com. Yep. Somebody already had Heyitswill, which I have on every other platform. But so I just went to Heyitswill.com. And so now my website is my handle, which worked out from a marketing standpoint. But yeah, Heyitswill.com.
You know, if I tell people to Google me, to Google Tech Tony, and there are three of us. There's me, there's a guy in India that owns a tech company, and then there's a DJ. So with my SEO, which is something we'll be talking about today, I tend to get the upper leg on them because I'm the one that's active. The DJ guy hasn't posted anything like a year, so he probably doesn't exist anymore. But I did talk to the dude in India, and I was like, hey, do you mind if I have this handle, I can have Tech Tony? And he's all, no. So it's either Tech Tony or High Tech Tony.
Yeah, the kid that has Heyitswill with one L on TikTok, he's like a 13-year-old kid. I was like, I'm not reaching out to him. I'll just get creative and do something different. But yeah, I love when people say Google for their marketing, like you just did, like, hey, Google Heyitswill. I'm working on that for myself, actually, because I just launched a new website. But I've seen billboards out, and from an SEO perspective, it makes me smile when people say, hey, Google this to find us. And I'm like, oh, you've got good SEO. That's great.
Yeah, that's what I tell them. Hey, just you can find me Tech Tony. Just Google Tech Tony.
Yeah.
So
nice.
I'm pretty good with search engine. I definitely show up on their videos. I just have a ton of videos under my handle, so it works for me so far. So far, so good. But it took me like, sheesh, I say a good 8 months before that started working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been working solid for probably 5 or 6 months since I launched my website to remove all the distractions on. I was actually competing with myself, which is an SEO thing to be conscientious of, is your social profiles, your things like that. Now, people can still find you obviously through those, but I wanted my website to rank number one if somebody looked for Heyitswill. And I think I'm almost there. I think my Twitter account, just because of the amount of followers, and maybe my Facebook videos, actually, not even YouTube videos, Facebook videos, because I post all my videos to Facebook. Yeah. So those actually show up in a list above my homepage and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a process, man. It takes a little bit.
That's pretty good because majority of the time Facebook stuff isn't indexable on Google.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd actually seen that. That was a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was YouTube. Because, you'll search for something like you just mentioned with your videos, where you'll search for Tech Tony and you'll get a link or two, and then like a box with videos, like a scrollable or collapsible box with like your top videos. I had that, but it said Facebook videos, and it was straight from Facebook. So that was pretty cool. So I don't know, they might have flipped a switch there and started indexing that kind of stuff, or it may just be videos. I don't know, but it was pretty interesting.
Well, in case you guys haven't caught from this conversation so far, Will is a pretty good SEO guy. And those that have followed me for a while, I am not. My thing is Google Ads. I know enough about SEO to know when it's not working and to know when it's done wrong. But as all the tips, tricks, and fixing it, that's definitely in Will's area. Will, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Are you a freelancer? Do you own your own company, or are you doing a little bit of both, working your own, being Will at night and someone else during the daytime? How do you
Yeah, no, so I worked in an agency for close to 16, 17 years. I started out in graphic design and doing branding and stuff like that. A lot of traditional design when I first started. So actual print products and things like that. If you can imagine when people used to print brochures and stuff like that. Yeah. I think if you go to a museum, you can find some of these like postcards. I don't know if you ever see like a business card. But yeah, I did a lot of design and branding for companies in the print world. Obviously, had to evolve with the times, transition into more digital design. And that's where I got into, designing for web and social media and stuff like that. And so naturally, my curiosity about how this content that I was designing was going to be used kind of led me to SEO. And the company I was working for kind of sent out a call, hey, who wants to learn SEO? And I raised my hand, and basically self-taught through various courses and academies and things like that online. I've been doing SEO for about 4 years, and just recently, back in November, actually, so like a month ago, I went full time. I've been doing it kind of on the side as a freelancer, but now I am totally full time, self-employed. I wouldn't call it an agency. It's just me. So I'm just available to do your SEO for you, or to coach you, or to help you with your SEO. But what I do now, and it's under my social handle, just Heyitswill, is kind of the official business name, I guess. But it is, I really am aiming to, yes, help people with their SEO and be hands-on. If you need somebody to run your SEO, I've got several clients that I do their SEO strategy. I execute it for them. But I'm also really focusing on the education part of it, because one of the things that I've found, as you just mentioned, is there's a lot of people who have kind of a base knowledge of SEO, or they're a business owner, a small business owner, and they want to be informed. So they're not at a place yet where they've quite got the budget to just say, hey, I'm going to hire somebody to do my SEO full time. But they're not to the point personally where they have enough information and knowledge about SEO to actually go create content that's going to help grow their business and bring traffic to their website. And so I'm kind of trying to fill in the gap there and say, hey, here's some resources, here's some tips, here's some things that you can apply to your business, and just give people a good idea of how SEO works so that they can go actually leverage that to make their business more successful. And the problem is there's a lot of pitfalls, because the person that's in that position, the small business owner, the entrepreneur, or if it's a side hustle that they want some SEO for, they'll go buy like a cheap plugin, or they'll pay for, some kind of, I wouldn't even call it cheap, because you don't really get anything for it, but some kind of, scam, for lack of a better word, of like, hey, pay us this, we'll do your SEO. And there's not even any real results, and they're not even sure what happened or what the person or company did. So I'm trying to come in and kind of fill the gap there for people, as you do with small businesses and things like that, and startups, and really give them the SEO that they need to have that foundation and to grow their business.
That's one of the biggest things I've ran into in businesses is SEO is a term that's thrown around a lot. Oh, you need to do SEO. Oh, you need to do SEO. And business owners, just like with me, Google and SEO is this little black box that sits in their company, and they know they have to use it. They know to access it. They don't know how, or they're scared to, or in my case, a lot of business owners I talk to, they've been burnt by somebody, because there are certain things that you have to do for SEO. There are certain types of SEO. There, as you've explained, as I'm aware, there's primarily two types, on-site, off-site, but you mentioned there's a third type called technical SEO as well. And it's when I talk to business owners and they say, oh, I have someone doing my SEO. My next question is, great, what type are they doing for you? And you get a blank look on their face. Because I'm like, you got to know what you're paying this person to do.
Yeah. Well, and I always use, I think in illustrations, and I'm just like, when I try to explain things, I always go back to the car mechanic. And, you don't take your car to the mechanic and the mechanic goes, yeah, there's something wrong with it. Do you want me to fix it? And you go, yeah. You say, well, what's wrong with it? And when you come back and you pay for it, you say, where's my bill that shows the parts and the labor and exactly what you did to my car? But for some reason with SEO, people go into it blindly and they just say, hey, do my SEO. And then you've got people that'll just say, sure, I'll do your SEO. And then you get a bill for it every month and you pay for it, but you're not really sure what's happening.
Going on.
Yeah. So I try to be super transparent, and I try to leverage my social media accounts like TikTok and Instagram and things like that to put out usable tips and things to not only just show people that I know what I'm talking about, but to give people things that they can go do that are actionable, that they can go see some positive results from. Because once you do like one or two things and you start to see new rankings pop up, or you start to see your site performing better, or more people going to your blog, things like that, you really start to understand how SEO works. And there's a lot of little pieces to SEO, but the overarching point of SEO is to get more people to your site, so that you can potentially get their business. So that's kind of what I aim to do, as opposed to just saying like, hey, pay me money, I'll do your SEO and I'll get you results. I can do that if that's where you're at and you don't have time and you just want somebody to do it. But I've found that it's much more satisfying, more fruitful to give people the tools to go do it.
Nice. What would you like people listening to this podcast? What would you like to tell them to go over that they can take from this? If they're gonna take anything from you, what do you want to tell them? Well, like your stuff.
So yeah. So my catchphrase or my buzz term is always that your content should have value. And there's always some question as to like, wait, I thought you were an SEO guy. Shouldn't your primary focus be get the #1 ranking? Well, yes, that's a byproduct. But one of the ways that I approach SEO differently than a lot of people is that, in my opinion, the rankings are obviously important. That's how you gain visibility. But the rankings are a symptom of the quality of your content. And so if you want to do true SEO, you really want to rank for terms that your target audience is searching for, then you need to focus on creating high quality content that provides value. So not just sales stuff, not just online brochure. And that's where, a lot of the clients that I work with, as we were talking about a little earlier, it's small businesses. It's people that they're very passionate about their business. They're very sold on what they do. They want to do it forever. And it's easy to take something like that and to create some good content. A lot of times they just don't have the framework for how to create good content, whether it's YouTube, blog content, something like that. So the SEO research can really fuel what that content looks like. Keyword and competitor research, mainly figuring out what people are searching for, because everybody searches, whether it's voice search or you're searching on your phone or your computer. And those search behaviors can really tell you a lot about how the human mind thinks and how your target audience looks at things and what they're looking for, the answers that they want. So for me, to answer your question, just focusing on making sure that your content is as valuable as it can possibly be. And a lot of times when that clicks with people, their SEO will just naturally take off. It's not even about putting in specific keywords. It's that when your content becomes more valuable and more people start interacting with it, Google sees it as great content, and that click-through rate goes up, and Google's like, well, this is great. I'm going to start showing it to more people. And so that's where the algorithm takes over and starts moving it up the list. And so, I've had mild success with specific keyword targeting where we say, this is the keyword. Let's go put it on your website as much as possible. A lot of times that's temporary success. I've had way more long-term success and sustained success just going the route of, here's kind of a framework for the keywords you should be using, but it's more of a topic suggestion. And then creating that content and then just watching it climb the ranks. Because you'll notice if you do a Google search, some of the top results that they'll have a different variation even of the word that you searched for. It's not spot on. And so, if you do searches for SEO, you might get stuff that actually says search engine optimization. It doesn't even say SEO in the title or in the description, but Google knows that that's what it's about. So at the end of the day, it's just about creating valuable content.
So when you say content, if someone's doing SEO and you're saying content, that's what they're going to put on the website, correct?
Yeah. So everything, copywriting, imagery, video, social media, those are kind of the 4 main pillars of your content for any business and any marketing. So just make sure your copy is optimized, your images, that they look good, that they have alt text, which is something I talk about a lot. If you're not familiar how to add that, you can go look at some of my videos about that. But and then your social media posts and video posts and stuff like that, just making sure all of that is high quality. And I don't even mean high quality like making sure you have a good frame rate. That's great. But just meaning that what you're putting out, the information that you're putting out, is something that is valuable to people.
So I know I mentioned, especially in my podcast, I tell people, hey, if you're doing SEO, you need to be doing blogging. Is that true?
Yeah, well, and so this is where we're at in 2020. That is different than all other times. I say yes, but I actually would consider blogging to be everything from a traditional blog on your website to a YouTube channel or even a podcast. Because I've worked with people that I'm like, hey, you should do a blog. And they're like, I am not a good writer. And I'm like, that's good. Are you a good talker? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm going to send you instructions on how to start a podcast. And then I just want you to hit record and start talking. And so they'll take that podcast and they'll have a traditional blog on their website, but they'll just embed it and do like a write-up about it. But they're talkers. And so it's like, well, lead with that, lead with whatever you're the most comfortable. And there's people that love video. And I'm like, well, make videos and embed the videos on your traditional blog. It doesn't have to be this kind of old school mentality of like, you need written content. You have the written content, but it's based on something else. So you make a video and then you do a write-up about the video and embed the video. But you're leading with whatever content.
Wait, I'm sorry, but are you telling me you've told your clients to make you content, they're making you content? Because I've been chasing my clients for content for months.
Now, I didn't say I had 100% success rate. I'm just telling you what I've told them.
That's so true, because like, oh man, I think I mentioned in this video already, like I talk to clients, SEO is a term thrown around. They go, yeah, we have someone doing SEO, fantastic. What are they doing for you? And they don't know. And I look at their website to audit the site, and they don't have no videos, no blogs, no nothing. They don't even have their as this local business, so they don't even have their phone number and address at the top of the footer page. None of that stuff. And so it just. If someone's listening to this podcast and they're like, I got someone doing my SEO for me, is it safe to say if that guy is not making content, that they're probably not doing SEO?
I would have a hard time believing that they have good SEO if they're not regularly putting out new content across the web. So the adding value is my first kind of vision statement. The second one is create content synergy. I'm really big on content synergy, where what I just mentioned, where because I'll give you a scenario that I come across that makes me cringe, and it's not bad. It's just people don't think like me and people don't think like you because they're in their business and they're not thinking about content. So they need people to connect the dots. But when I see somebody and their website is basically an online brochure, it hasn't been updated in 3 years. And they're like, well, my business hasn't changed in 3 years. I'm offering the same thing. So why would I update it? Then I go to their YouTube channel and it's like popping, man. And I'm like, why are you not like embedding some of this content on your website? Why do you not have a blog section? Why are you, like creating that content synergy? And eventually everything should lead back to wherever somebody can spend money on your business on the internet. If that's a online store, if that's a lead generation from your website, like wherever that conversion starts, your content should always be pulling people there, and you should be posting your content on that platform to get people there.
Everything so your website, technically.
And so that's one of the other things that I harp on is making sure that if you create a piece of content for anything, even TikTok. I mean, you and I were talking about this offline before we started talking, with YouTube Shorts. I mean, you've got the obvious synergy of taking your TikTok videos, posting them on YouTube, but then you've also got the synergy of taking either that YouTube TikTok video or the video itself and putting it in a blog post and writing a more long form, post about it and stuff like that. And you're creating this synergy. Now, I don't do this well enough for myself. But my excuses is because I'm doing it for my clients. And so, the cobbler's kids don't have shoes. And that's just marketing in a nutshell for you. But that's something that I want to start doing, is creating that content synergy. I mean, any platform across the web, you can tie a direct line right back to your website. I mean, if you're on Pinterest, making sure that all your pins are clickable and it goes right back to your website. Just little things like that, creating that synergy, because that's going to help your, as you just mentioned, your offsite SEO, because it's going to build your authority and your credibility across the web. And it's going to create, that synergy that helps establish you as more of an authority in whatever area that you're operating in.
Man, the Omni, I guess you can call it Omni marketing tactics. I'm starting to move everything to Twitter and figure out that algorithm. But I love video content. I love it. I love creating it. I love messing around with it, because it captures that person. And even with a TikTok video, you got them to stop and look at your stuff for at least 15 seconds and not the full 60-second video, wherever long it may be, that type of situation. And it's getting our clients to just make the content. Like you said, you send them instructions. Like, oh, you like to talk? Well, here are the instructions to be for a podcast. That type of thing. I have a couple clients of mine that I know for a fact they're lawyers. And there's a lawyer up in Atlanta, Georgia, which is 4 hours away from us. And she's been getting leads from Dothan, Alabama, which is south of her. And I was like, well, how are you getting these leads? And she's like, well, because my videos. People watch my videos and they come to me. And I look at my clients and I'm like, see the problem? Nobody knows you exist.
Yep. Yeah. And you know, when it comes to, bridging that gap, I guess, between content and, you know, making it happen, that's where that SEO research comes into play. Because I've had the same conversation where I say, hey, here's how to start a podcast. And, you know, my client, who is very well informed, an expert in the field, they're like, well, what do I make? Like, what do I talk about? And that's where the SEO research comes in, because then I was able to turn around and send her a whole list of like, well, here's what people are searching for. And so just start answering some of these questions, and she's just popping it off, you know? And so that's where a lot of times without that piece of the SEO research, keyword research, competitor research, looking at SERPs, which stands for search engine results page, which I'm sure you're familiar with, but just for everybody listening and watching, looking at an actual Google search results page and seeing people also ask, and knowledge panels and the stuff that it suggests for you, and create content around that. I mean, that's been a treasure trove of content ideas for me and my clients.
Where do you recommend someone would start? Because you said for your SEO, providing value and then moving out to your SEO tactics. It really is for people just as simple as just type into a Google search and see what people are asking about, correct?
Yep. There's several free tools. Google obviously is free, unless you're paying for ads like you do. But to use Google is free. And that's really, if you don't want to use any other tools, you don't really want to learn how to use a keyword research tool, even if it's free. We're all familiar with Google search and how it works. So just do a search for terms that are related to your business and get very broad, and then start getting a little more specific. And you'll kind of be taken on a journey as you look at the people also search for, you look for the questions people have asked, knowledge panels, things like that. You start looking at the kind of content that's served up when you search for that. And you can really learn a lot just from using Google. But then there's also obviously other tools that you can either pay for or learn that can give you some more detailed metrics. But to answer your question, I mean, if you're just curious and you're just starting out, just do some searches for stuff in your industry and see what kind of information you can glean from Google.
And you recommend that they move that to their site. Like, I'm sorry, you said like YouTube videos and all that. Put that information on their site, correct? Like an FAQ type of thing. Would that help?
Yep. I mean, yeah, there's tons of places you can do it. I mean, I've worked with clients where we took their top performing video and put it right there on their homepage, and just put a block and put it on there. We might switch it out every month or so, but we found engagement went up when you put a video at the top of a page, or even like right under the fold. As soon as people start scrolling, engagement would go up, and in turn, click-through rate would go up, and in turn, their rankings would go up. So it's kind of a downward spiral, where that's how that relates to SEO, is that if you can maximize the engagement of your website, Google knows that, and they're going to rank you higher, and they're going to rank you more frequently. So yeah, taking that video content, creating a blog around it, or creating a landing page. If it's something that you feel like you could actually create a page on your website, a separate section or something about, if there's enough demand for it, do that and have that place where it lives. And, but yeah, I mean, it's a strategy of just figuring out the best place for it, but to create that synergy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Just out of curiosity, what's your favorite type of SEO personally for you? Like, is there a type that you like to do the most of, or is this type you're just a fan of?
Oh man, it's like asking me which child I love the most. Um, uh, I think anybody would tell you that on-page SEO content creation is where it's at because it's the place where you get to be the most creative. But I do have a soft spot in my heart for technical SEO because there's just something about when you run a technical scan and you get a bunch of errors and then you go fix them and then you run that scan again and all those errors disappear and your site is like really fast.
Nice.
There's just something rewarding about that. And so it's a little more work and a little messier, but yeah, I do like technical SEO as well.
Nice. I like how you said fast because Google loves speed. They love to brag about speed.
Yep.
And that's very
and I don't know, I haven't seen this actually happen yet, but I remember reading a few months back that on mobile searches, Google was actually going to start noting the slow pages, which would obviously keep people from clicking on it. And I don't know if that was like an empty threat or something like that, just to get people to speed their pages up. But I remember, everyone was shaking in their boots because they're like, oh my gosh, like my page is super slow and I haven't done anything about it. And I was like, well, now's the time. So yeah, Google's very concerned about site speed.
I haven't heard about that because I knew Google was going to do something about unsecure sites. It was going to list, have a marking on the search results if the site was secure or not. He said they were going to mark if this page was slow.
Yep.
Interesting. I know there's
like I said, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that actually come to light or be used yet. And what I was reading about it was specifically for mobile. So I don't know if it was going to be on desktop searches or just searches on your phone. But yeah, they were going to start cracking down on slower pages. And rightfully so. I mean, Google, they're trying to give you the best content because they want to keep their users happy, and make money, obviously through ads, which is where you come in. But they don't want to serve you a search results page full of pages that are crawling, and you're going to bounce off and go do something else. So that is something that they measure, and that's something that's really important to them. So site speed for sure is something to pay attention to.
A client lately. Have you played around with Google Ads? Not AdSense. No, yeah, it is AdSense. Have you played with Google AdSense lately?
No, I haven't.
That's when a website gets monetized by Google to run ads on there. So now I'm going to blank here live on a freaking podcast. The ads you see across the top side on a website, like blogs, and ads on them. Well, there's one lady, I was looking at her site. She's like, why is it so slow? Something happened. Well, I was looking at her analytics, and I was like, well, when did you get monetized by Google? And she said, well, this day. And I saw that day her site speed went from like 4 seconds to 11 seconds to load. Yep. And that's because she had like 8 ads per page running. And I was like, lady, you are killing it. You're like, Google's not paying you enough to put these ads on your website and then just murder your site speed.
Yeah. And that's the ironic thing is like, Google cares about page speed, but they sometimes are the biggest culprit of slowing your site down because Google Tag Manager will bog your site down. And I can't tell you how many sites I've gone into and had to clean up their Tag Manager and their code and their scripts because that was the number one error that came up that was slowing their page down. So Google's awesome and they want your site to be fast, but don't expect them to make it fast for you. You got to take the shortcuts and cut some corners in some other places and be aware of things to make sure that load speed is down.
Have you, do you recommend people using things like Google Lighthouse or the Speed Page? I forget what it's called.
Yeah, Page Speed Insights. That's the one that I share with people to use. It is the most detailed for free that you can find. And the only problem with it is it can be a little too detailed because I've had people, I've done like TikTok videos saying, hey, here's how to check your page speed. And then I have an influx of people saying, what does this mean? What is CSS? What is JavaScript code compression? What is the, and so it's great that it gives you all that information, but a lot of times you have to turn around and come to somebody who knows what that stuff means to actually address it. It doesn't give you like, hey, go compress this image and go clean up this part. And it's just very technical, but it is a good way to go in for free and just see your overall page speed performance.
then hire someone like Will to shuffle through the fluff and puff, actually fix what needs to be fixed.
There you go.
Sweet.
Heyitswill.com.
That's right. Well, yeah, tell people where they can find you, man. How can they contact you, follow you on TikTok, anywhere else?
Yeah. So the website is heyitswill.com. That's the best way to really get in touch with me. I do a free SEO report. It's just a real high level scan. If you go in and put in your email and your URL, it'll email you a copy of that. And it's an automated thing, just full transparency, just through a third party resource that I use. And, but what that'll do is that'll, also send it to me, and so I'll be aware of that. And then right beside that, you can schedule a free consult via Zoom, just 10-15 minutes, where we can look at that report together. I can answer any questions you might have, and then talk about, if there's a possibility for me to step in and help you and what those options are. So that's the best way to get in touch with me there. I also have, through my website, as I mentioned before, the education piece of it. I launched on December 1st, just a couple of weeks ago, my SEO and Content Creator Academy. It's a free community, so it's kind of like its own social network or Reddit group or something like that. So there's a free community, but there's also a paid tier where you can get some really detailed and useful step-by-step tutorials that I put out once or twice a week. I'm also doing live Q&As over there. And if you've seen the 60-second SEO reviews that I've done on TikTok, I'm doing 5-minute SEO reviews for some of the pro level members on the Academy. So they're getting a lot of really good information from that. And then my SEO 101 course is included with that pro membership, or you can buy that as a standalone thing. But all that's accessible through heyitswill.com. But again, my goal is just to either help you do your SEO or to teach you how to go do it. So you can interact with all that at heyitswill.com.
How's your SEO, Will?
My personal SEO?
Yeah. The reason I asked is on my website, I'll be honest with you, I'm in the 7th rebuild of my website. I've been in the 7th rebuild for like 8 months. I hate my website. So I know us guys, we need to be more technical with our things. So how's yours? Mine's good right now.
It's better. Here's what I'm up against, and here's a good lesson for everybody, especially everyone who during this pandemic or this time in 2020 or whenever you're watching this, if you've started a business and launched a website, it takes time. I was not active at heyitswill.com until about 3 months ago when I built that site. And the age of your domain is a big factor in SEO. So,
oh my gosh, yes.
It's going to take a year or maybe 2 before you really get that authority that you need to really start getting into some of the search rankings that you're wanting. So just to set some realistic expectations, if you're launching a website this week, don't expect to be, ranking with the big boys next week. It's going to take some time. So that's my current uphill battle, but I'm making sure I do everything I can leading up to that to set myself up for that long-term success, but it just takes time.
Well, even then, I dare say along those lines, because you said something very important. It takes time. And even with a website that's been around for a while, if it wasn't done right, it's like you're just starting all over again because you don't have that authority. And I love how you said it can take a year to 2 years, because I can't stress how many times people hire an SEO professional. I'm like, oh, we'll get you ranking in 3 months. I'm like, on what? Like, how? So quickly? Like,
listen, I'll tell you full transparency. I have gotten rankings for clients in 30 days, but I never promised that because there's just no way to promise that. I think we were just right place, right time, and it was low difficulty for the stuff we were targeting. But I mean, to really get to where you want to be for SEO, it's going to take months, maybe even a year. But here's the great thing about it. If this is a business that you're running that you want to be in it for the long haul, once you get there, you stay there. Unless your website just totally falls off. As long as you stay in that consistent, SEO best practices, you're going to continue to keep those rankings and continue gaining more and more and more. So it's one of those things that if you're patient and you're willing to let me or somebody help build a strategy to give you that foundation, you're going to have a lot of really good long-term success on the web if you'll just be patient with it. But yeah, that's the hardest thing to convey to people, because they're used to like, okay, I pay you this and next week I get what? And I'm like, well, next week you get to wait. And we get to keep waiting until we see this stuff happen. But,
it's the same with Google Ads. In about 30 days, I can show a proof of concept. And I've been lucky, just like you said, where a client will get to me and they'll be like, Tony's like, someone saw our ad and I closed a $3,000 deal or lawsuit, whatever it may be. And I'm just like, ooh, that's great. That doesn't normally happen, because I'll tell clients, hey, for the first 3 months, this is where we're building your ad or seeing what the traffic is. It can take 6 to 8 months for your Google ads to work fully effectively. So I love how you said it can take a while. That's what these business owners need to understand, is that digital marketing, this isn't just like a TV or radio ad. We're just bombarding an area of people and hoping for the best. This is skill, it's tactic, and there's a reason why people pay for it, because it works.
Yeah. We also live in a culture, being from the beginning of my career was traditional advertising back in when that was still a thing. And, you could put up a billboard and you could start expecting calls that day to the number, but people don't, that's not a behavior of people anymore. Now they're bombarded with ads from every angle. So people have to see you 7, 8, 9, 10 times before they actually interact with it. So, to your point, even with ads, I mean, somebody needs to see your ads 7 times sometimes before they actually click on it, or before it like sticks in their mind, or they even notice it. And so that's kind of what we're up against in this digital culture, is stuff like that.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you guys. If you need any more information, hit them up, heyitswill.com. Help his SEO go up. From time on site. There we go.
Yeah, go find it on Google and click the Google result. That'll help my SEO.
There we go. Other than that, you all have a great day. Until next week, happy marketing.